What's up, you guys? Welcome back to Heinous Beliefs, the podcast where we talk through some of the most unsettling crimes, especially the ones where belief systems have played a part. If you're new here, I appreciate you. Thank you so much for tuning in. And if you've been rocking with me since day one, thank you so much. I appreciate you. Thank you for sticking around. Before we get into today's story, though, just a heads up, like always, listener discretion is advised. This is a heavy podcast in general, but this is a heavy episode, just like the other ones. So make sure that you are taking care of yourselves. It has violent crimes and some other sensitive themes to it. So if that's a little too much for you, make sure you're taking care of yourselves. Make sure you are taking a break and maybe stepping away for a little bit. If you're going to be sticking around, though, you already know what to do. Get comfy, grab your tea, grab your coffee, buckle up, safety first. Let's get into it. All right, so picture this. It's early 1980s. We are in Brookfield, Connecticut. A sleepy little town, real, everyone knows each other type vibe, barely any crime, and people just minded their business. Y'all know how it goes. It's a type of place where everyone knew everyone's business, but really, why are we talking about it, right? We're all family. Now, here is someone that is very crucial to this case. Ernie Cheyenne Johnson. At 19, he was a hardworking, kind of quiet, kept to himself, and he was a tree surgeon, basically climbing up trees, trimming branches, risking his life for a paycheck. Ernie is in a serious relationship with Debbie Glatzel, who is a few years older and working as a dog groomer. Everything seems chill. Debbie is pretty much, working. He's working. Everyone is fine, right? Everything is okay until Debbie's little brother, David, who was about 11 at the time, starts having nightmares, right? He starts complaining about regular nightmares, right? He's having nightmares all the time. I'm talking about paranormal horror movie type nightmares. This little boy claimed that he was being tormented by a man with big black eyes, a thin animal-like face, and jagged teeth, pointed eyes, and hooves. Not just visions. He said that this thing would whisper to him at night, threatening him, pushing him. One time, he had scratches on him with no explanation. The kid starts waking up, screaming, convulsing, and talking in voices that, they did not recognize. Now, the Gletzels were old school Catholics. They were not playing around with no demon talk, possessions, nothing. They called the priest immediately and then eventually reach out to the big dogs, Ed and Lauren Warren. I don't know if you guys have heard about them. If you don't know them, they are like the Beyonce and Jay-Z of the paranormal investigator world, right? They claim that they have done so many investigations about paranormal activities and were basically real life inspirations behind The Conjuring and all the other movies. So the Warrens came to observe David and declared that this child wasn't just troubled, he was possessed. And by not one, two demons, he was possessed by 43 different demons. I don't know how or where you put all those demons in one person's body, one little child's body, but sure, apparently he was possessed by 43 demons. Now they start performing exorcisms on him. During one of these exorcisms, Ernie Johnson makes a decision that he would change his whole damn life, right? While watching David suffer and go through these exorcisms, Ernie gets this emotional reaction where he stands up in the middle of the exorcism and he says something like, "Leave the boy alone, take me instead." Guys, he basically was challenging the demons, right? He was about to square up with Lucifer himself if he had to. And apparently, according to the family and the Warrens, the demons accepted. Okay, the demon somehow took him up on this offer. So after that exorcism, Ernie started changing, and I mean in a real way. It wasn't just subtle. Debbie was the first one to realize. She said that he just would zone out for long stretches, staring into space like he wasn't even there. Sometimes she would catch him mumbling under his breath like he was arguing with someone, except no one was there. And there was this shift in his face. His eyes got darker, like there was something something else looking through him, right? And she said that he looked like a different person, just wasn't the same vibes. There was a moment where one day she found him in a corner in the room, hunched over and growling like an animal. Y'all, mental health issues are not a thing to play with, okay? They can manifest themselves in so many ways. And even sometimes it could just be someone picking up on, the attention. Someone wants the attention on them. That is also something that has to do with your mental health, right? We could talk about that later. Now, when Debbie heard this growling, she described it as animalistic, right? It's not just like a frustrated growl. He was growling like an animal. Eventually, they moved out of the Gletzel house, probably thinking new space, fresh start. But they got a spot above this dog kennel where Debbie worked, and the place came with the landlord, Alan Bona. He was 40, ran the kennel, and was known around the town as kind of loud, kind of aggressive, and always had a drink in his hand. He wasn't a stranger to aggression, tension, fights in the community, all that stuff. But Ernie, he was spiraling. Like, he'd wake up angry, go to bed angrier. One minute he was calm, and the next minute he was screaming at the wall and punching the air. Friends said that something was not okay with him. His friends were just stressed out. He was stressed out. Like, he was going through so much in one day that they were not sure what to do with him. It was like he had a short fuse constantly burning. He stopped showing up to work. He started clashing with the coworkers. He even told Debbie one time that he felt something inside of him, like a weight that couldn't be shaken. He said, like, I'm not alone in here, in my body. Well, yes, you are. That's not, something that we can convince people of, especially when they have mental health issues, because this is reality for them, right? Now, I don't know about y'all, but there are certain things that I can experience and just, kind of think through and realize, like, hey, this is not real, right? Certain things that can happen throughout my day and be like, okay, I probably made that up, or that might not be real. But then when it comes to these supernatural claims that these people have, I'm like, how do y'all come up with this, right? Like, how do you guys get there? But in the case of these people, you can see how they got there because these are staunch Catholic people, right? The first idea they had was not to go call a professional, not to go call the doctor. It was to go call the priest. And then from the priest, they went to the exorcist, right? At this point, we're not dealing with reality. At this point, we just, we rather be in la la land than get help. Now we have someone else that somehow has channeled these demons, and everyone's life is getting ruined because of it. Anyway, one of the other wild moments was when a priest came by to bless this new apartment, and it was nothing fancy. Ernie did not say a word at first, but when the blessing started, he locked eyes with the priest and went into a full-on trance. He started growling and, doing all the things, breathing heavy. He was trying to intimidate the priest or something, or scare him off. The priest got so uncomfortable, he cut the prayer short. Like, he stopped praying and said that there was darkness in the house and he just couldn't touch it. He couldn't deal with it. They need to figure that out, pretty much abandoning them, right? Now, at this point, the Gletzels are still believing that it was a spiritual issue. They saw David go through it, so they didn't doubt that Ernie could be fighting the same issues, right? But these people in the inner circle, they started whispering. Some people said Ernie needed help, real psychiatric, psychological help, that maybe at some point, he could get better. Now, the other people said he was maybe just trying to get attention that David had. But whatever it was building like a calm storm, and it was about to blow. It's Monday, February 16, 1981. Feels like just another regular day, but something's off. Debbie, Ernie, her two younger cousins, and Alan Bona all roll out for lunch, right? They were spending time together lately, just casually hanging out, nothing too deep. Now, Alan, like I told you guys earlier, usually is going to have a drink in his hand. So he already started drinking. Now, the man was known to be loud, so drinking made him even louder. By the time lunch was wrapping up, they started to head back to Alan's apartment. He was very much drunk, slurring his words loud and starting to get on the edge, right? They're all back at his apartment. They're pretty much just having fun, chilling, but you could cut the tension with a knife at this point. Alan starts getting in his feelings. There's a weird energy, and all of a sudden, he grabs one of the little girls, one of Debbie's cousins, and won't let them go. Not in a playful uncle way. This was aggressive. Like he was trying to control her, prove something, maybe even intimidate her. Debbie steps in and tries to get her cousin back from him. Ernie's watching all of this happen, and people described him as calm, but there was just this kind of like stillness in him, not passive, just focused. He walks up, gets between the kid and Alan, doesn't yell, just swings. He just starts there. He just starts beating him up. But while he's doing this, everyone is like quiet. Everyone is quiet because they did not see this coming. Now, Ernie just like kind of moves out of the way and he reaches into his pocket and pulls out a 5-inch work knife. This same one that he always carried around, but this time it's not for work. So in what seems like seconds, Ernie stabs Alan 5 times. No hesitation. It just, it happened so quick. Now, the wounds are in Alan's chest, so it pretty much rips into his heart, right? He's dead. He's done. It was quick, it was deliberate, and it was something that just happened before anyone could do anything about it. The kids are screaming. Debbie is in shock. It's a whole scene. Alan collapses. The EMS later confirms that his cause of death was bleeding out. So yeah, he pretty much was dead before they got there. So Ernie left. Ernie just ran, okay? He left and he was not in the right frame of mind. His eyes were glazed over, like he just had no emotion. He had no clue what was happening. The police find him hours later wandering through the woods, blood on his clothes and his hands, but not a single word out of his mouth, right? He's not talking. He's not responding to any communication whatsoever. He's just there. Now, after Ernie is arrested, his lawyer, Martin Manella, announces that they're entering a plea of not guilty by reason of demonic possession. Why the fuck is that even? I mean, it's 1980 something, but yeah, that was the plea. Not guilty by reason of demonic possession. Manella even flew in exorcists from Europe ready to testify that this was demonic possession. The courts have dealt with the existence of God. Now they're going to have to deal with the existence of the devil, right? By the time the story got to the media, it blew up and they started to call it the demon murder trial. Reporters were camping outside the courtrooms, TV specials, magazine features. Everyone had an opinion, but the judge, not with it. He ruled that possession was not a valid defense under the law. Ernie's team had to pivot. They had to figure some other shit out. They focused on self-defense and mental health instability. Despite everything, though, Ernie gets convicted not for murder, but for first-degree manslaughter. He was sentenced to 10 to 20 years. But he serves just 5 years before getting out on good behavior. This case is not just about murder. This is about how beliefs can become stronger than truth. When you're so deep into this worldview that even blood on your hands don't look real, right? It doesn't look real to you. You cannot even reconcile with reality. Beliefs can be beautiful. It can heal, But unchecked, it can also distort, distract, and destroy, especially when we start using it as an excuse for actions that need accountability. Like, what does it mean to be not guilty by reason of demonic possession? The fact that the defense even thought it possible to present that is why I will always say we should not be affirming adults with imaginary friend. Was Ernie possessed? Maybe. Was he mentally unstable? Possibly, more than likely. Did a man die at the hands of another because of an invisible force, or was the real demon just inside of a human mind? Now, a lot of the witnesses have said that this was not necessarily a situation that had to get where it was, because at that point, Alan was subdued. At that point, he had already let go of the child. And I'm not excusing what Alan did. He was drunk. He should have comported himself better. He should have had more control over himself and over his drinking. Grabbing a child and trying to keep him hostage for intimidation or whatever is ridiculous. But guess what? He did not have to die, right? Because when we're so out of touch with reality, we don't necessarily see life as valuable anymore, right? You kind of just go with whatever comes to your head. So if we can maybe take a step back in society and pay attention to people's mental health issues, address them. Don't just brush them under the rug because, you have some belief that tells you that it's actually the Holy Spirit. It's actually this. He was mentally unstable. And because of belief, because of his belief system, his whole mental health struggle was dismissed as demonic possession. This could have been avoided. It could have been avoided. And that is my problem, is that we're not being proactive. We want to be reactive. After it happens, then we're like, oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to Maybe next time, take the steps so it does not happen. And one of those steps is not affirming adults with imaginary friends. Okay? All right, you guys, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for sticking around. I appreciate you. If you are at the end of this episode, thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. I hope that you're having a good rest of your day. Guys, please remember to interact with the Instagram and also interact with the podcast platforms that you are on. Follow the podcast platform, like the podcast, and make sure that you are leaving a 5-star review. 5 stars only. Thank you. Thank you very much. Nothing other than 5 stars, okay? And don't forget, make sure you're subscribing so you can get an extra episode on Wednesday and Friday. All right, you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with me. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Bye, y'all.